Look at this map. You've seen it 1,000 times. In classrooms, on the news, on Google Maps. But what if I told you that almost everything about it is wrong? Greenland isn't the size of Africa. Reno isn't east of Los Angeles. And the tallest mountain on Earth isn't Mount Everest. These are 7 geography facts that will permanently change how you see the world. Number 7. Reno is west of Los Angeles, approximately 050. Quick, picture a map of the United States. California is on the left. Nevada is to its right. So Los Angeles, California must be further west than Reno, Nevada. Right? Wrong. Reno sits at 119.8 degrees west. Los Angeles now at 118.2. Reno is over a degree and a half further west. The reason this breaks people's brains is that we think of states as stacking neatly left to right, but California's coastline curves east as you go south. LA sits in a pocket that juts surprisingly far inland, much closer to the Nevada border than anyone expects. And this isn't the only one. Jacksonville, Florida is further west than the entire country of Chile, and Maine is the closest U.S. state to Africa. Not Florida, not South Carolina. Maine. Our mental maps are built on assumptions, and assumptions are where the interesting stuff hides. Number 6, Finland and North Korea are neighbors, approximately 220. Finland, a Nordic country, Northern Europe, saunas, forests, aurora borealis. North Korea, East Asia. Total isolation, missiles, one ruling family. These two countries have absolutely nothing in common, except a neighbor. Russia. Russia is so wide, 11 time zones from Kaliningrad to Kamchatka, that its western border touches Finland, and its far eastern border also reaches North Korea, for exactly 17 kilometers along the Tumen River. That means you could, in theory, walk from Finland to North Korea crossing only one international border. You need to cover about 8,000 kilometers of Siberia. But the point stands, and it gets weirder. Norway also borders Russia, which means Norway, a NATO member, is one single country away from the most isolated regime on Earth. Number 5. Canada has more lakes than every other country combined, approximately 340. There's no agreed-upon number for how many lakes exist on Earth. It depends on how small you're willing to count. But by most estimates, the planet has somewhere around 3 million. Canada has at least 2 million of them. One country, the second largest by area, with fewer people than the state of California, holds roughly 60% of all the lakes on Earth. Why? 2 words. Ice Age. During the last glacial period, massive ice sheets scraped across the Canadian Shield, carving out millions of depressions in the bedrock. When the ice retreated about 10,000 years ago, those depressions filled with water. The result is a landscape so dense with lakes that in parts of Manitoba and Ontario, there's more water surface than land. Pilots flying over northern Canada describe it as looking like someone shattered a mirror across the ground. And many of these lakes don't have names. They've never been surveyed. Some have never been visited by a single human being. Number 4, the Pacific Ocean is bigger than all land on Earth. Approximately 5 o'clock. Take every continent, every island, every square meter of dry land on the planet. Put it all together. The Pacific Ocean is still bigger. It covers 165 million square kilometers. All the land on Earth adds up to about 150 million. The Pacific has 15 million square kilometers to spare, enough to fit another Europe in the leftover space. But here's what makes it truly hard to grasp. The Pacific is so vast that its antipodal point, the spot on the exact opposite side of the Earth, is still in the Pacific. There are places in this ocean where if you drilled straight through the core and came out the other side, you'd still be in the Pacific Ocean. The most remote point on Earth is called Point Nemo. It sits in the South Pacific, 2,688 kilometers from the nearest land in every direction. The closest humans to Point Nemo are usually not on any ship. They're the astronauts aboard the International Space Station, 408 kilometers overhead. Number 3, Africa is not the size you think, approximately 620. Open Google Maps. Look at Greenland. Now look at Africa. They look roughly the same size. In reality, Africa is 14 times larger than Greenland. This is the Mercator projection, the map that shapes how most of us picture the world. It was designed in 1569 for sailors who needed straight lines on a chart. It works brilliantly for navigation. But it does something terrible to your sense of scale. It stretches everything near the poles and shrinks everything near the equator. Europe looks enormous. Africa looks modest. Russia looks like it could swallow the planet. Here's what actually fits inside Africa. The United States, China, India, Japan, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, Spain, and Italy. All of them. At the same time, with room left over. Africa is 30.3 million square kilometers. It's the second largest continent, but on most wall maps it doesn't look like it. And that distortion didn't just warp our sense of geography, it warped our sense of importance. Number 2. Mount Everest is not the tallest mountain, approximately 750. This one depends entirely on what you mean by tallest. Everest is the highest point above sea level, 8,849 meters. That's the number in every textbook. But sea level is just a reference line we agreed on, and it favors mountains that sit on high plateaus. Everest starts from the Tibetan Plateau, already 5 kilometers high. The mountain itself, base to peak, is about 4,600 meters. Now look at Mauna Kea in Hawaii. It starts on the floor of the Pacific, 6,000 meters below the surface. From base to summit, Mauna Kea is 10,211 meters. That's the tallest mountain on Earth by more than a kilometer, and most of it is underwater. But there's a third answer. Chimborazo in Ecuador is only 6,263 meters above sea level. Nowhere near Everest. But it sits almost exactly on the equator, where the Earth bulges outward from its own rotation. That bulge means the summit of Chimborazo is the point farthest from the center of the Earth. Farther than Everest, farther than K2, farther than any other spot on the planet. 3 questions, 3 different mountains, and none of the answers is wrong. Number 1. Half of humanity lives inside this circle, approximately 920. In 2013, a geography teacher in Texas drew a circle on a map, about 4,000 kilometers in radius, centered somewhere near the coast of Myanmar. Nothing remarkable about the shape. But more people live inside that circle than outside of it. China, India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Japan, the Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, Pakistan. More than 4.4 billion people inside one circle. Outside, all of the Americas, all of Europe, all of Africa, all of Australia, the Middle East, Russia. All of it combined, and it still has fewer people. It's called the Valerie Purist Circle, after the Reddit username of the teacher who posted it. And it reveals something most maps hide completely. Humanity's distribution on this planet is wildly, absurdly lopsided. We learn history through a lens centered on Europe and the Americas. We build our mental model of the world from maps where London is in the middle. But the true center of human civilization, the mathematical center, is somewhere in the Bay of Bengal. And once you see that, it changes how you think about everything that comes next. Which fact broke your brain the most? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. If this is your first time here, I make one of these every week. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.